Come on, you're sucking up gigabytes here.
Yeah. Sorry. I get settled. As the legacy member of Saturnites, I believe it's my duty and, in fact, my honor to remember our organization's legacies. Those being the papers that we have written and the members whose imagination created them. I firmly believe also that a life worth living is a life worth honoring. And so tonight I'd like to take a few moments to acknowledge the passing of Jim Scott by presenting excerpts from Todd Stitzer's eulogy of Jim that was given just last April, barely 2 months after Jim's last talk. Jim was Penn State blue and white. He was Dale Carnegie trained, which meant he was an effective and formidable presenter. Other than his last talk, his Saturnites speeches were largely on the history of industry and of New Britain. He had the ability to make them insightful and riveting. Perhaps his best and most provocative talk was where he suggested that the captains of New Britain's industry in the 1960s might, and I emphasize might, have artfully conspired with the unsuspecting local government officials to construct routes 9 and 72 through the center of town to eliminate the possibility of very expensive environmental cleanups. And I would add to Todd's eulogy, Saturnites was important enough to Jim that during the years that he was working in Milwaukee at Actuan, he rarely missed a meeting. That meant commuting halfway across this country. That was his commitment. Todd said, Jim Scott was my oldest and best friend. We were baptized in the same church and grew up 2 blocks from each other in the same neighborhood in Scranton, Pennsylvania during the 1950s and 60s. In 1983, our lives came full circle when we both ended up moving back to New Britain with our wives to grow our families and careers. Since then, the Scotts and Stitzers have spent much of their lives together. There's a reason Jim had the nickname Great Scott, and that was golf and his ability to first put himself in trouble and then pull off the legendary recovery shots. Perhaps you might have seen him birdie the 18th hole here at Shutter Meadow without ever having had his ball touch the 18th fairway. He did that feat more than once. Jim loved his 3 girls, Nancy, Megan, and Taryn, and would do anything for them. He also enjoyed looking sharp and never voted in favor of no neckties at the Shutter Meadow dining room. In fact, he not only looked and carried himself as a gentleman, he was a gentleman in the truest sense of the word. Despite not having regular employment for almost 3 years, he managed to maintain a positive outlook, and through sheer force of will and dint of hard work, networked himself into various consulting assignments and ultimately regular full-time employment with Actuan in Milwaukee. He could have written a book on how to persevere, which was again severely tested in the last 2 years of his life as he battled cancer. He never complained. Let me say that again. He never complained. How could you not be inspired by seeing Nancy walking on the treadmill at the gym next to him, supporting him every step of the way? She never complained. Again, let me repeat that. She never complained. You all know that Jim was a man of intense faith. He believed in and lived for his family, his friends, and his faith. He committed himself to business and community He simply believed that anything was possible. And in the end, he almost proved it. So I'd just like people to take a moment, stand, take their drink, and salute a life well lived. Here, here.
Salute.
Here, here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
That's for you, Nan.